what's going on, everyone? This is Chase here at Rocky Mountain. Thank you so much for joining us. Say hello to the all-new Klim X1 Alpha. This is their new adventure touring helmet. And I said adventure touring. Notice I didn't say dual sport in there. Well, that's because the X1 Alpha is not replacing the KOROYD Pro. So now they have two premium helmet offerings, but the X1 Alpha is more intended for the adventure touring rider, where the KOROYD Pro is more for the dual sport adventure rider. And I will point out some of the differences between the two to help you decide, well, do I want to go with the KOROYD Pro? Do I want to go with the X1? But either way, they've got two really good offerings that you can choose from. And with the new X1 Alpha, you can see it's all new. It has no DNA from the KOROYD Pro. It's not just a revision or an update to that helmet, it's its own. And there was a big emphasis while they were building this to have it be as quiet as possible. That's where, again, that touring side is going to come into play. It's a very comfortable helmet and a few other little things that they have done to cater more towards a lot of, say, just highway miles in general. And we're going to talk about that. If you have any questions about it, please leave those down below. We will help to get those answered. I think another big story about the X1 Alpha that I think kind of gets overlooked in a lot of Klim's helmets is their use of KOROYD. They use it in the KOROYD Pro, they use it in their off-road helmets. KOROYD is a very unique material that they use inside the guts of the helmet, and it's actually a three-layer system with the X1 Alpha. You have 2 layers of EPS, and in between those 2 layers, you have KOROYD. And what's unique about KOROYD is that it's very lightweight, it does a phenomenal job of absorbing energy, and it flows a ton of air. So it's got really cool, unique characteristics that make this a very safe, very light, and very well ventilated helmet. Now, I'll give you a little 360 view here. You're going to be DOT and ECE 2206. It's a hand-laid 3K carbon fiber shell. There's 3 different shell sizes. And you can just see, even just looking at it, just the whole shell design, to me at least, it just looks more like a touring helmet. If you look at the mouth guard compared to the KOROYD Pro mouth guard looks a lot more like a dirt style helmet than the X1 Alpha does. So just a few little subtle differences that I noticed with it. But overall, for me personally, I think it's a really good looking helmet. And as I mentioned earlier, the weight, not quite as light as the KOROYD Pro. The KOROYD Pro for a dual sport adventure helmet is the lightest option out there. This thing though is not far off. It's still very lightweight for an adventure touring helmet. It comes in around 3 pounds 5 ounces in this size medium. And when you have in the visor, the shield, everything else, that is still very lightweight for any adventure touring helmet. So props to Klim for doing that. All right, so again, 3K carbon fiber shell, 3 different shell sizes. Now looking at the outside, we'll talk about the ventilation first because that was a big emphasis with this. So here in the front, you have your mouth vents, and you actually have 2. And each one of these, if I press on it here, can open and close. So this upper one is going to be for more of your fogging. So it's going to go up into the face area. And then this lower vent is going to be directly to the main cabin of the helmet. What's kind of unique though is that both of these, you can take those completely off. If you just want unrestricted airflow going through that mouth vent, you can take those off and then just pop them right back on. It's actually very easy to do. So aside from that, as you work your way up, you have 2 vents here underneath the visor, which have 2 openings. So you can have those just slightly cracked, or you can have those things completely open. So the way you find it is actually just right here. I like that it's on the back side of that visor, so it's going to be easy to find with your glove on. And again, you've got 2 settings right there. And when you look through it, and we're going to get to the guts of this thing, you're going to see that KOROYD. There's a ton of cutouts in the EPS that's going to allow this thing to circulate a lot of air. But when you get to the back here, you're going to have 2 exhaust vents up here on the top, and they've made this spoiler here to create a negative space to help pull that air out. And then you also have some exhaust vents down here at the bottom. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get this on camera, but when you look up underneath this vent and I hold it up, I can see daylight coming through. And that just shows you how good the cutouts are in the EPS. And then even with that KOROYD layer, it's gonna, you know, that thing's just gonna allow a lot of hot air to escape out the back of this helmet. As far as the visor goes, what's nice is that it is adjustable, and you have 3 different points of adjustability, and the way it adjusts is actually pretty slick. I haven't seen this before. I think it's a great design. You have this button right here on top they call the trigger. All you do is just press that down, and then it just allows you to move it forward or back. So you press it, you'll hear it click into place. Again, you've got 3 detents there, and then if you want to take this completely off, it is a toolless design. It's very easy. You literally just press that trigger down and then just pull it all the way forward, and then it literally just pops off in a matter of seconds. Very easy to do. So you can rock this in a street setup. They do have shields that will come included that will cover up the side plates here if you do want to take that visor off. And then as far as the shield goes, same thing there. It is going to be toolless removal. And when you buy this, so right now you've got the clear shield on here. Again, that's going to come pin lock ready. If you never used pin lock before, it's in the box. It's a separate layer, if you want to call it that, or separate shield that just attaches to the pins on the inside. And it just creates, like you would say, think of a dual pane window. It separates the warm air from the hot or from the cold. And it's a really good anti-fogging system. What is nice though is that included with this, look, this helmet's not cheap. You're around $850 for this thing. But inside they also include a photochromic lens, which is the auto tint. So that lens I think is amazing. I wish all helmet manufacturers made one for their helmets, because bright sunlight, it's going to automatically tint for you, but as soon as that sun goes behind some clouds, or maybe you're going through a really long tunnel, whatever it is, the sun stops hitting it, it will then get clear again. And for me personally, like I've ridden in helmets that had tinted shield. It's great when the sun's out, but once it starts getting dark, it's kind of sketchy, because then I'm trying to lift my visor up or my shield up just halfway and I'm kind of peeking through. It's not a good scenario. I love these lenses that have the auto tint. I think they're awesome. And those are not cheap usually when you buy them separate. So it's nice that Klim is including that with these. What's also kind of unique is that both the photochromic and their tinted shields, because yes, Klim does have tinted shields for these, actually have an infrared coating on there that deflects the sun, which helps to reduce the amount of heat coming into the helmet. So the clear shield does not have that, but the photochromic and the tinted, those shields do. All right, let's talk about the shield. So you have a tab on the right and left side to pop this thing open. And I'm gonna say right now, this makes me so happy. They purposely, first company to do this. And I feel like they were thinking about us when they did this. They probably weren't, but I feel like they were. Here's what they got. So when you open this, you notice how they have this little tab right here down at the bottom. That's two purpose. One, when you close it, that's what gives you a good tight seal and locks that shield into place. But if you're like us and you go on your rides, more often than not, whether it's warm out and you just want to get a little bit of extra airflow coming in underneath the shield, but you don't want to blast yourself, you can just barely crack this. Or if you are getting a little bit of fogging on your shield and you just want to crack it just to get some airflow in there, they purposely made it to where it will just sit resting on top of that little tab. It's not going to come up on you, but it's going to allow that airflow to come in. Some shields, you can just kind of barely crack them, but for others, it's kind of a hassle. They don't want to stay open because the wind kind of wants to push it back shut if you just barely crack it. This is amazing. Now, from there, you're going to have multiple detents on the way up. So 3, if you counted those from the bottom, 1, 2, 3. Only thing I noticed is they're kind of loud. I don't know how often you can be adjusting your visor or your shield while you're riding. Only thing I noticed, but they are stout. So when you have this thing in one of those detents, it ain't going anywhere. And as I mentioned, this is going to be toolless if you do want to remove that. You can wear, if you have this shield up, you can wear a set of goggles underneath here. However, just looking at it, it's not hard to figure out. You don't have a lot of space here between the shield and the gasket. It's going to be hard to get that to want to shut over top of your goggles if you do like to rock your helmet that way. But you could remove the shield entirely, then you could wear a set of goggles, probably no problem with this helmet on. You know what I realized? I didn't even talk about the fit earlier. I mentioned it was a very comfortable helmet, but as far as the fit goes, and the reason I thought about that is because I had a rider here at Rocky Mountain try this on who has a more of an oval head shape, and he said, yeah, that's a really comfortable helmet. It fits good for me. I tried it on size medium, had another rider here try it on. Blake is actually filming this video. We all like the fit of it. We have our fit guarantee. If you buy this helmet, if you don't like how it fits, you can send it back in brand new unused condition. We'll give you free shipping both ways on your first exchange to make sure you get the size and the fit that is best for you. What made me think of that is Justin, who tried it on, first thing he did, because he wears glasses, he put his glasses on. And he said no issue getting his glasses on with this. And what's also nice about that is sunglasses. If you like to wear your sunglasses while you're riding, you should be able to get your sunglasses on inside here without any issue. All right, so that covers the outside pretty good. One last feature I do want to cover, which again is just props to Klim. I haven't seen any other company do this. And when I saw them do this, I thought, why hasn't anybody else done that? But right here, They call it their infinite edge. I believe I got that right. Infinity edge, right here on the side. So you notice that they left this nice flat spot right here on both sides, and this is for your comm system. So if you're just using an adhesive-backed comms mount plate, they give you a good flat surface right here to do that. And then you notice how around this, you've got this gasket or this plastic here, but then in that area, they got rid of that. And so now you just have the thin shell, that carbon fiber here. That is going to make it a heck of a lot easier if you're using a clam style mount on your helmet to get that to wedge up there and mount to the helmet. Some helmets are just thick in that area and it's just hard to use a clam style mount and you end up having to use that adhesive backed option. But sometimes helmets, they might have some edges or you don't have a good position there for that. Klim's making it very easy to do so, which I appreciate. All right, let's get to the inside here. So double D-ring, the Krause Pro does utilize the fidlock system, and talking with people at Klim, the reason for that is they don't want to just force you to have to use fidlock. If some riders really like the fidlock system, some don't. So if you like the fidlock system, Krause Pro, but if you've tried the Krause Pro or if you just used the helmet in the past that has a fidlock and you're like, no, I don't like the fidlock, they're not going to force you to have it on both helmets. Okay, let me open this shield here so I can get a little bit better access. So you'll notice on the bottom here too, you know how I mentioned it's more of that touring feel and look to it? Well, they've done a few things to me that just make it have more of a kind of a premium touring feel to it. And one of those is along the bottom here, you have this goat skin suede. So it's a really good look to it. It's super soft to the touch. It just feels ultra premium. And then something unique is that on the neck roll, so when they were doing their wind tunnel testing, they were doing it at 75 miles per hour, so cruising speed. And as I mentioned, they want to make sure that with the aerodynamics of the visor, they're going to keep this thing steady at those speeds, eliminate as much buffeting as possible, but also they wanted to make sure they kept the helmet quiet. So one of the ways that they've helped to do that is here on the back, you actually do have some elastic in these splits. So reason for that is just you put the helmet on, it kind of stretches out as you put it on, and then when it gets over your head, it just helps to give the best seal underneath the chin and around the neck as possible. And that, of course, is going to help eliminate as much wind noise as possible when you do have it on. All right, so let me pull this out. So with the cheeks, you got a couple snaps there. I'm going to have to do it this way so I can see what I'm doing here. So it's a very soft, very comfortable fabric that they are using. And these are actually all, pull just the whole comfort liner out here. All right. That thing is completely out. So it's just a little bit of Velcro up here that's holding those in place. So I'm not going to take it all completely apart, but you do have speaker comm cutouts right here in those cheek pads. But you can see even with the liner, lots of cutouts on here. It's I believe it's called Brrr liner. So it's just meant to keep you cool. It's antimicrobial. Again, very soft, very nice touch to it. You can wash that thing, let it air dry, pop it back in the helmet. Now, I am going to take out the neck roll here just to give you a little bit better view of that edge that we pointed out earlier. Let me do this real quick and carefully. So that whole thing pops out. You've got your chin skirt, but now you can just see right there, that's what I was talking about. See how thin that is? See how you've got that nice gap in there? That's really gonna help you get that clamshell inside there to make it mounting as easy as possible. All right, so there are your plugs for your speakers comms. If you're not gonna be putting speakers inside here, put those back in, but that's gonna allow you to fit up to a 45mm speaker, which are the largest that you're gonna see on the market right now. But yeah, keep those plugs in there. If you're not gonna be putting speakers on, that's just gonna help keep the noise down as much as possible. But with that out, now we're getting into the safety tech here. You've got this layer of EPS, which is sitting close to your head, and then you get to the KOROYD in the middle, and then there's an outer layer of EPS. And here's why they've done this. This inner layer of EPS is softer, And so EPS, you can have it in different densities. So this inner liner is going to be a little bit softer. That's going to be more for your low speed impacts. And then as you get to the KOROYD and the outer layer of that EPS, those are going to be there for their bigger, more high speed impacts. And as you can see, I mentioned all the cutouts. You can actually see that light coming right through that thing. And here's what's unique. EPS, we're all familiar with, right? Expanded polystyrene. It's been used in helmets for I don't know how long. It does a good job. But here's why KOROYD is pretty unique. KOROYD has very unique properties. And what KOROYD, or how it's made, is it's little tubes that are laser welded together. And what they can do with KOROYD is they can make those tubes different diameters, they can make them different densities, different thicknesses, all the above. And they can do that so that it has the correct impact absorption rate for the discipline that it's going to be used for. So the same KOROYD that's in this helmet is not going to be the same that's in, say, a snowboarding helmet or other types of helmets used for different disciplines. They make it specific to what you're going to be using it for. Now, here's what makes KOROYD so good when it comes to impact absorption. EPS, when it compresses, it will progressively get firmer and firmer the more that it's compressed. And what they say is that once EPS is compressed to about 60%, so once 60% of it's used up, it then, I didn't even know this was a word, but densifies, and it starts to get really hard, and it basically kind of loses at that point its ability to absorb more impact. The problem is that the more EPS is compressed, the more energy is needed to compress it further, and when you have a head impact, well, you don't get more energy the longer that crash happens, right? It's just one consistent or one big blow. So the problem with EPS that they say is that it just can't absorb more energy once it's compressed to a certain extent. KOROYD is different. With KOROYD, what's unique is that once it starts to compress, it takes the same amount of force to compress it all the way up till 78% of that KOROYD is compressed. So unlike EPS, it doesn't get firmer as it compresses, and it can just utilize, it's more efficient, right? Instead of 60%, it can go all the way up almost 20% more to 78 before it really starts to firm up and starts to lose some of its ability to absorb that impact. That's what's unique about KOROYD, and that's why they say it's better than EPS. And again, what's unique about KOROYD is that even though it's one big piece, it's not like EPS where unless there's a cutout, air's not going to get through there. You can see right through it, and so it ventilates incredibly well. That's the story behind KOROYD. That's why Klim uses it. That's why they're using it in the X1 Alpha. If you have any questions or comments about this helmet, please leave those down below. We'll help to get those answered. To grab yours, to see the different colorways available, click on the link or head to RockyMountainATVMC.com. You know the deal, we ship for free over $75. I already talked about our fit guarantee. And if you want to stay up to date on products like this, get subscribed to the Rocky Mountain YouTube channel. I'm Chase, and we'll see you on the trails.